If you want peace, declare war first. That's what Putin said before. Yes, 3 years of war, more than 1,000 days were not enough to convince Vladimir Zelenskyy that the battle is not equal, nor did they make Putin abandon the reason he started the war on the first day. It is the war that has shaken the old continent, caused the economies of the great nations to stagger and quickly collapse under the blows of recession and escalation, stockpiles. But it is the war that emptied the weapons depots in Europe, forcing the old continent to lean on America. America left the reins in the middle of the battle, and from the shadows appeared someone who claimed the role of peace, saying it with a smile, Kishma. And here we mean the yellow man, Trump. In your opinion, what is the secret of the meeting that took place in Saudi Arabia between Russia and America under the title of the peace deal? And what is the return awaited by Donald Trump? And why did Trump announce that this meeting does not require Zelenskyy's attendance? And will NATO accept to exit through the narrow door without appearing on the front of the agreement? And what is Putin's condition that annoyed Europe and NATO in exchange for peace to which Trump agreed? Answer. All these questions will be answered in the upcoming minutes of the video, so stay with us. The death deal. When you are in a strong position, act as if you are weak, and when you are weak, act as if you are strong. This is what military experts said, and this saying reached Zelenskyy's ears. But in the final moments, after having previously played hard to get in negotiations with the Russian president and drafting laws to betray any official, he opens the door for dialogue with the Russians. Here he is now labeled as a dictator and illegitimate. We did not come up with this news ourselves. Rather, this is what the President of the United States declared, where President Donald Trump announced that the popularity of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is low and the country is devastated, and holding elections in Ukraine is not something that came from Russia. It comes from America and many other countries. He added that the Ukrainian people say it has been a long time since we saw the election of a new minister of the Interior leader at all. He makes ridiculous statements. His leadership allowed the war to continue, and he does not know where half of the money, estimated at $350 billion, went.
Damned
which might
Washington
how
UFA.
Trump views him, describing Zelenskyy as a dictator who leads the country without elections, adding that he was performing his job poorly even as a comedian, then was begging the United States for money for a conflict he cannot win and does not. Now he does not want to hold presidential elections in Ukraine, and he expressed his disappointment because Ukraine did not take advantage of the opportunities to negotiate with Russia and maintain most of its territories over the past 3 years, according to what Trump stated. The response quickly came from the Ukrainian president to these statements, considering that Trump lives in a realm of mockery, misleading, and the elections indicated his victory by 57%. So even if someone wanted to remove him, they couldn't. But the shocking and surprising thing is that Russia and Washington seem more than allies, and there is nothing indicating animosity between them. Yes, gentlemen, the reconciliations between the two sides have started to take a different direction, indicating in essence that they are allying against a third party, meaning Europe. Here appears in the scene the deputy chairman of the Russian Security Council, Dmitry Medvedev, who stated that American President Donald Trump is 100 and 200% correct when he described Volodymyr Zelenskyy as a dictator without elections. On his page on the social media platform X, it is better for Zelenskyy to hurry, or he will have no country left. At the same time, sources inside the Kremlin announced that the Moscow government is surprised by the major concessions the Trump administration is making towards Putin. But on the opposite side, there is Zelenskyy, who is preparing to sign the Act of Salvation, and the goal is to continue receiving military support from the United States, even if it means presenting Ukraine as a gift to Trump, who plans to later hand it over to Putin, according to the BBC. In this context, a Ukrainian official revealed that his country is negotiating with the United States regarding strategic Ukrainian minerals, and
land, which the United States wants to obtain in exchange for its support of Kyiv in the war with Moscow. An Ukrainian official told Agence France Presse that Kyiv and Washington continue negotiations on reaching an agreement regarding Ukrainian strategic minerals after Kyiv rejected a proposal from the United States, which angered President Donald Trump. The official, who requested anonymity, said that the United States obtaining rare minerals from Ukraine could be in exchange for American assistance or even as compensation for the support the United States has previously provided, a Saudi arena for the conflict of the major powers. The cameras turn 180 degrees away from Ukraine to capture scenes from the first meeting between the Russians and Americans in Riyadh, where Saudi Arabia announced that there are two high-level negotiating teams to outline a path to end the conflict in Ukraine, following the meeting that took place between the two delegations in the Saudi capital, which key parties such as Kyiv and the Europeans were absent. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy criticized the Riyadh meeting and demanded fair talks that include other parties, while leaders of the countries in the European Union fear that redrawing American policy might lead to significant concessions to Moscow to rearrange the cards on the world maps. Meanwhile, Trump commented on Kyiv's displeasure at not having a seat in the negotiations, stating that they had the seat for 3 years, but something about that Trump added that he might meet his Russian counterpart Vladimir. It is expected before the end of this month. Most likely this meeting will be the cherry on top of the divided deal, a deal that the Ukrainian president trembles for. How could it not be when American President Donald Trump announces that Russian President Vladimir Putin he could take all of Ukraine if he wanted, adding that Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy should work towards reaching an agreement with the country that invaded him almost 3 years ago. A war within a war. Vladimir Putin must be very happy now as he sips his favorite drink by the fireplace with his dog beside him, for his plans have succeeded better than he expected. This agreement has become the most prominent characteristic that defines the current phase in relations between NATO countries, between Ukraine and its allies, while keeping his allies close and establishing new alliances that would not have been formed without his war on Kyiv. As for European disagreements, French President Emmanuel Macron responded to Trump's statements by saying that no one has the right to tell Ukraine that it cannot join the European Union or NATO. Macron added during an online conversation with social media users that at the present moment, when Ukraine is at war, resisting and losing its sons every day to defend its land, no one has the right to say Ukraine does not have the right to join the European Union, or that Ukraine does not have the right to join the North Atlantic Alliance. This was reported by Agence France Presse. The issue of Ukraine joining the largest alliance in the world will be on the table in the negotiations. These are the same negotiations to which Macron and other heads of the old continent, from the main leader to his German counterpart, who along with Macron currently shapes Europe, were not invited, to which the German Chancellor Olaf Scholz responded. And he questioned the description by American President Donald Trump of his Ukrainian counterpart as a dictator without election with his statement is incorrect and dangerous. Scholz told Der Spiegel that not recognizing the legitimacy of the democratic President Volodymyr Zelenskyy is simply wrong and dangerous, insisting that not conducting these elections during a war aligns with what the Ukrainian constitution and the country's electoral laws stipulate, in line with the position of European Union countries as well. Refusing to concede in negotiations and keeping Zelenskyy in denial, making him feel powerful in the negotiations, forcing NATO officials to intervene. It started with the Secretary General of the Alliance, Mark Rutte, who addressed the European Union, advising them to stop complaining about the positions of Russia and the United States regarding the settlement of the conflict in Ukraine, and instead they should hasten to present new ideas. During a speech at the Munich Security Conference, Musa said to Rutte that he would like to tell his European friends participating in discussions to present concrete proposals and ideas and to spend more on defense instead of complaining about the possibility of not being at the negotiation table, in what seems like a dangerous turning point not previously seen in relations between. Do you think Trump will continue what he started with Putin in Riyadh? Or do NATO and Europe have a different opinion? Put your answers in the comment box.